Shadow Show.
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 Shadow in it.
Greg Cody is upset that he's not here today. He wanted to be here today, and evidently, for reasons I don't totally understand, he's not here today and blaming us.
He should be upset. It's his day. Why is he blaming me? He should blame you.
Well, I think he's blaming everybody. He's blaming the show in general. He wanted to be here for some reason when Tim Walz joins us. And I haven't seen all of the commentary on us announcing that Tim Walz is going to join us at 10:30, but I've asked them to print out a handful of comments. Have you guys seen anything? Because I imagine it's very negative. Anything that gets thrown as chum in the water, I just imagine us announcing that we're talking to a politician is going to be met very poorly.
I haven't seen it because I'm actively trying to stay away from it, so I'll step out.
Somebody writes in, yuck, unsubscribe. I feared Le Batard would ruin this show for me someday. I wonder what down-the-middle Chris Cody thinks about all this.
I was just going to say, there have to be some down-the-middle people out there that are just pretty even-keeled about it.
I do find it pretty interesting that this is the bridge too far. Hey, I've rocked with you for all these years throughout the pirate ship and everything like that, but I'm beginning to see the seeds of your political leanings.
Was Greg told he couldn't come in for it? Like, what's he mad about?
We don't trust Greg?
We moved him as just today's a busy day, hectic day. We'll talk to you on Wednesday kind of thing.
Wow. Insulting.
I'd sit out if I was
journalist.
Many people are writing in. The theme that seems to be most prevalent is some form of, I'll be here just to see how Dan can make this as awkward as possible. Everyone is predicting awkward. What Big Papa writes in, what's the over-under time on Dan making the interview awkward? Chief Sakif writes, Dan's going to ask the most awkward questions of all time to stop the interview in its tracks, and Stu is going to follow up with a top 5 list of athlete names that connote governorship.
Oh, I like that.
I think that's a little hard. I don't think you're going to be able to come up with 5 of them there.
Ron Washington.
I mean,
come on.
Somebody
What
writes,
is that list? A governor?
Yes.
Washington, a governor?
Yeah, that's, it's a stretch. He felt pretty good about, he wanted to counter. I said top 5 governors is going to be hard, and he came up with Ron Washington and was proud of himself. Everybody kind of winced. Somebody writes in, bleep you and your show.
Oh.
Just a real clean anger that you have toward the show. Are we looking forward to this? Lucy, you don't look like you're looking forward to this.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I just don't understand after 20 years why you still read the comments. I feel like you should know better by now.
Lucy,
such a great point.
I had them collected for me for content purposes.
I don't know if it's fun content to read about how everybody doesn't like us.
Mean tweets? You don't think mean tweets are fun content? They've been fun content since Twitter started.
I don't know about that.
Okay.
I would prefer if everyone always only told me how pretty and smart and funny I am.
Lucy, you're so pretty and smart and funny.
Oh my God, thank you. Did someone tweet us that?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's got to be some nice comments out there.
Nah.
Good job by you guys having him on.
Nope.
Look
Good
how
work out of you.
big this show has gotten. You have a person running for vice president coming on. That's what they should be
I told my
saying.
wife last night. She's like, cool.
Yeah,
I can't believe no one's in costume today, too.
That's a bummer.
Crazy
I thought about
you
that on the
didn't,
way in.
Plan that out
I thought
ahead of
about
time.
that's terrible work by me. That's just terrible. I can't believe nobody had a costume today.
I wore long pants because of it.
Stop that. Stop that. Stop that. I hear him chatting the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the walking. Dress too sharp with the prize. White girls let it tell me I'm awesome, yeah. Hot like fire on the pan. If you wanna touch my please use caution. Cold like 0 degrees. I'm out the cage, gotta let out the beast. Revolutionary, gotta let out the streets. Locked in a cage, I'ma let out the sheets. We came for one man, forget my peace. You take the west side, take on the east. I'ma put him in the cage, never let out the. I hear him chatting the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Not so tough, but man's keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. Right there. Stop that. Stop that.
Stugotz, at the risk of really upsetting the audience, we could start with the Florida Panthers winning 5 straight on the road.
Yes.
On the road.
What against the Rangers, yeah.
The defending Stanley Cup champions going on the road and just dragging everybody. I've got a couple of things that I want to get to, including a beaming and radiant Jessica, who, again, fell asleep on a late Monday night just listening to Steeler press conferences, just delighted with the glow of her telephone on her face because the Steelers have some offense now, and they can be dangerous if they have some offense.
Dan, I had to stay up late and hear what Mike Tomlin said about the challenge flag that he threw on the George Pickens touchdown, which should have counted because he got 2 feet in bounds. Well, the same foot twice, I guess you could say. And then replay assist was like, nope, not a touchdown. You have to get 2 separate feet in bounds for it to count. And Tomlin threw his challenge flag, and then Steelers were not able to challenge it, so they got a timeout taken away. And in my head, like, Tomlin historically awful at challenging. Like, his challenge record is terrible. In my head, I'm like, oh God, here we go again. Why are we challenging this? They already ruled that it wasn't a touchdown. In the press conference, he said he didn't know replay assist had already ruled it a touchdown, and that's why he threw the challenge flag. And if he knew that replay assist had already reviewed it, he wouldn't have thrown the challenge flag. So the Steelers just get a timeout taken away on this inexplicably because I guess the communication wasn't great with the sideline, and that's a huge bummer. It ended up not mattering. Steelers won by 8. Daniel Jones had a chance to take the Giants down the field inside 5 minutes. Best defensive player in the league, TJ Watt, one-on-one with the Giants tackle, makes a move, strip sack, fumble recovery. Steelers get the ball. Giants get the
You're
ball back.
breathless,
but
Jessica. I need you to
Steelers-
slow down. It's
She's
aggressive.
doing play-by-play.
No, but it's cafecito and it's a lot.
Almost
It's
done. The Steelers end the
she's
game with
excited.
an interception from Beanie Bishop, his third in 2 weeks, third against the New York sports teams. Game over.
So I don't blame you for not naming the tackle. I think his name is Illuminor.
Yeah.
Jermaine Illuminor said before the game that he wanted TJ Watt man-to-man. He didn't want any help, and then he allows 3 sacks and a forced fumble, and J.J. Watt is making fun of him on Twitter for wanting TJ Watt one-on-one. But I think that there should be a new rule that if you do get 1 foot in twice, it should count as 2 feet. I haven't seen a whole lot of
The
that.
play made no sense.
Yeah.
The way George Pickens flew from essentially the middle of the end zone in terms of depth out of the back of the end zone without his second foot going down was crazy. He was just shoved and went flying out of bounds.
I think it's more difficult to get the same foot in twice. It should count as more.
But being able to push a receiver out of bounds has been allowed for close to 20 years now, and it's part of the game. I would say let's not change the rules just because George Pickens found the one loophole to put the 1 foot down twice. How about George Pickens find a way to put that second foot down and we don't have an issue?
It wasn't that he was pushed, it was that he was being lifted, which I think is like falls in the same category. But it was really confusing. Like Billy said, he caught it like 6 yards into the end zone, had 2 feet clearly down. How are we counting one ass cheek or one knee as 2 feet, but 2 feet from the same leg don't count as 2 separate
But then what do you
feet?
do with a toe drag? What if one foot just drags 5 feet across?
Nope. It's got to. No,
That's
it's
different.
got to.
No,
No,
it's 5 foot.
it didn't come off the
No,
ground.
no,
One
but,
foot's got to hit
That's
twice.
but if it's just
completely
1
different.
foot
Didn't come
that's
off the
tapping
ground.
down,
Foot drag is not the same thing. It's
toe
not
drag.
that.
I don't
Two
even know
times.
what you're
I've got
talking
it
about.
two
Mike.
If
times.
it
This is
drags
ridiculous.
and then it
Twice.
comes up and then drags again, and you get
Ooh.
2 separate puffs of the
Yes.
black little pebbles coming up,
2 drags.
that's 2 drags.
Yeah.
That's what I was worried about.
I
That's
love
2
2
drags.
drags.
If
Yeah.
the Steelers do it, it should count as a touchdown, okay? Because
like that
first
rule.
half was just field goal, field goal, field goal. We had like 3 touchdowns taken back. It was a great catch by Pickens. That spiritually should count as a catch. And we need to have a rule in the NFL where spiritually something is a catch.
Okay, I don't think of football.
There's
and
priests on the sideline
spirituality.
sometimes. Why don't we have spiritual plays? I
There
don't
was
get
an
it.
immaculate reception. Once.
That's true. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
I want
Greg's right.
to
Like Cap was there.
address why Greg Cody is not here and why Greg Cody is mad at us. But I do wonder, Stugotz, because we lived this in South Florida. the fan base became so spoiled by Don Shula that what I remember of the Jimmy Johnson and Dave Wannstedt days that had a lot of 10-6s and 11-5s in them, one playoff victory in Seattle when Jimmy Johnson would win a playoff game here and there. What I remember after Shula is that the fan base had grown so spoiled with Dolphin winning that they assigned to those coaches mediocrity as a label for going 11-5 and 10-6. The reason I bring this up as it relates to the Steelers and Tomlin, I think the national perception on the Steelers is they're above average always. You don't want to play them, but there's no chance they win the title. And I wonder if Steeler fans land on Tomlin and say, I'm tired of being quote-unquote mediocre, even though it's not actually mediocre. Last year, it kind of was. I think they were 9-8, and they sort of stumble into the playoffs. And then when they get to the playoffs, you don't fear them at all. But if I give them just a little bit of offense, they end up becoming what I thought the Jets were going to be this year, with a little bit of offense, with a quarterback like Russell Wilson, he's an upgrade, and Mike Tomlin actually did what very few coaches do, where he sits the quarterback who's doing a little bit of winning because he wants more winning than that.
It's interesting because are you okay with the stability of having Mike Tomlin there, always having a winning season, getting to the playoffs, getting knocked out in the first round? Chris Sims tells me and Billy all the time that he doesn't want the Steelers in his playoffs because they get blown out first round, it's over. And Tomlin is 8-10 in the postseason. So I do wonder if Steeler fans are okay with having a guy like Tomlin who's good enough to get you to the playoffs, but doesn't appear good enough to get you to the Super Bowl on a consistent basis.
Well, he did win a Super Bowl, and they were at a Super Bowl that they lost. But, Jessica, what is the feeling of Tomlin? They've only had 3 coaches ever in Steelers history, and I do wonder. I know I saw in Miami people get tired of Jimmy Johnson and Wannstedt for not being Shula, and I do wonder if getting to the playoffs every year but not having a real chance is something that Steeler fans think of as beneath them.
I don't think Steelers fans this year, I mean, it's early in the season. I don't think they have no chance. I think that the last 2 weeks have shown you that the Steelers finally have a good passer in Russell Wilson. The play-action pass game hasn't looked as good since Ben Roethlisberger before he blew out his elbow. But I would say that, no, I think there's definitely mixed feelings about Tomlin. I think most fans really love him, and he's been a great head coach. And the biggest issue with the Steelers has been managing the offense after their 19-year franchise quarterback player got injured, was not as good, retired, and then they drafted Kenny Pickett in the first round, and that didn't work out. So, the quarterback issue has been the problem. The offense has been the problem. I think the defense has been really good. They've had Hall of Famers on this defense his entire time in Pittsburgh. And so, the playoff record stinks. I don't think anyone's happy with that. I don't think a single Steelers fan's like, we're content losing in the wild card round to the Browns or to the Bills or the Chiefs. But I think that, hiring Arthur Smith, getting a quarterback in there that can actually open up the vertical pass game has been a good sign that the Steelers are willing to make necessary changes to actually be competitive down the stretch.
Because sports fans don't like the aesthetics of how they perform. They've just written them off and say they don't have a chance. But the Pittsburgh Steelers are elite at forcing the other team to play the style of game they want. You highlighted some of those teams, Bills, Chiefs. In the playoffs, those are difficult games. If one or two things goes differently in the Bills game, maybe they hang tight there. I think they're elite at getting the other team to get sucked into the style that they're most suitable to win at. So I'm not one of these people that don't think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have a chance in that conference. I really don't, especially given what we've seen from the Kansas City Chiefs and that offense, even though they're undefeated, showing that it has a little bit more limitations than previous. I like the Steelers in a matchup to at least cover a number and make that game close.
Also, really, really tough division. A division that Tomlin's won many, many times, and even in the last 10 years with 2020 being a really weird season. The Steelers have to play the Ravens twice every year. They have to play Joe Burrow twice every year. They have to play the Browns, which were better when they had Baker Mayfield, and they lost that playoff game, obviously, which I think was a real sort of turning point for Steelers fans. You can't lose to the Browns in the playoffs. But It's a tough division, and I think like their defense has been really, really good, and a lot of people want to see touchdowns and high-flying offense, and like Mike said, that's not really the game the Steelers are trying to play right now, but this season has looked a lot better in that regard.
I'm just shocked that you said a couple minutes ago that there's mixed feelings on Tomlin. I've heard, I know of his playoff struggles, but I've just thought of him as one of the most beloved coaches in all of football. That's crazy.
He hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah, but he had some bad offenses.
I know, but we're raving about Russell Wilson. He did it against the Giants and the Jets.
Most coaches that go 8 years without winning a playoff game don't get to keep their jobs,
Right.
period. Like McDaniel won't. McDaniel will not keep his job if he goes 8 years without winning a playoff game. Like that is a tribute to how the Pittsburgh Steelers do business. That they believe in stability and they believe in leadership that is consistent. It's an unusual philosophy in sports.
I said mixed feelings, but I think most fans do really like Tomlin. So, like, yes, there is doubt about the playoff record. There is doubt about, like, why didn't we fire Matt Canada sooner? Steelers, what are we doing with that? But I think fans are feeling a lot better about the new GM. He's made some great moves, and I think that, like, overall, Tomlin is pretty well liked.
We're doing a great job of getting the state of Pennsylvania in the tent. Keep it up.
Yes, that's all we're trying to do.
You're not fooling me, Dan Le Batard.
Let's cover only sports in the swing states.
Tomlin talk today, huh?
Let's get also to this Greg Cody video. Chris, what can you tell me? You are back from doing debaucherous things in Key West. You apologize to the audience and to South Florida for our show's role in injuring all of the Dolphins that we interviewed before the season got hurt before the halfway point of the season. Zach Sealer, who hadn't missed a game in a couple of years, got hurt in practice with a fractured orbital bone. Out of nowhere, he was the last one to get knocked out in terms of our haunted interviews.
That's crazy that happened in practice because, like, the week before this one, his helmet came off during a play and a fumble he recovered, I believe, and he was tackled without a helmet on, and he didn't fracture his orbital bone then, but in practice it happened somehow.
I've had, like, a roller coaster of emotions with this injury. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh, come on, you got to play. Poked in the eye, not a big deal. The more I really think about it, that sounds really painful. So the roller coaster's now back to me respecting
That's nice
the
of
injury.
you, yeah.
You're of the belief that if 300-pound Zach Sealer, who's a professional football player and hasn't missed a game in 2 years, misses a game with an eye poke, that he's being soft?
I'm just saying, I've gotten poked in the eye before. I missed 5 minutes of TV.
Right, but the roller coaster.
I mean, you guys should not be allowed to interview Dolphins players next year.
That's fair.
Anyone, really.
Who did you
That's fair.
interview from the Heat? Like, that's also something to keep an eye on.
Well,
this is a
you know
bad
what's
situation.
a good thing to keep an eye on? When that ever runs, because everybody interviewed a bunch of people at the Heat, and I still haven't seen any of that video.
That's why we're not airing it. We don't want Bam to get hurt. It's actually a heady play by us.
Yeah.
The haunting, you're afraid that the curse is such that we
Jaime Jaquez, key players, okay?
And we never ran any of it.
Out of safety.
I haven't seen any of it. It's because our show is haunted. Thank you, Chris, for looking out for the local teams of all kinds. I am now told by video that we do not have the Greg Cody video where he complains about why he's not on the show today.
It's a slow burn. We'll have it in a minute.
This is good. This is good. Before we have on the vice presidential candidate, it's
Well, is he
good to
gonna
have
be
a
on? Are
bunch
we
of
sure about that?
technical issues. Yeah, no, I'm not sure about that is the short answer.
So Greg is we did Greg dirty because I did a little digging. His book comes out today. So on the day of the release of his book, we told him don't come in to promote the release of your book.
I need to get more information on this. Let's go to the video now of Greg Cody where he is promoting his own book, which is out today. So you can now get Back in My Day. He does more Back in My Days for profit over there than he does paid here to do Back in My Days. It's
Bring him
weird.
in on a Tuesday. I mean,
It is
for crying out loud.
strange
Right.
that Greg Cody on the side creates another profit pattern for himself, doing the thing that he refuses to do here. When's the last time he did a Back in My Day here, a fresh Back in My Day? Has it been?
The recent fresh ones have been from the book. Yeah. So it's like an actual fresh one.
Right.
It's been a while.
Let's play this video of Greg Cody complaining about not being in today. He will be in tomorrow.
Seconds of dead air.
Just coughing in the background. This is all he wanted to do today.
Longest
anyway.
slow build ever. Here we go. All right, here we
Hello,
go.
everyone.
Greg, Greg,
What?
I told you I couldn't see your face. Was it?
Okay. Hey, everybody. You know what day it is? It's back in my day. It's Tuesday, October 29th. Drop date for the Back in My Day book. It's out today. You can hold it in your hands. You don't have to pre-order it like you have, and thanks to those who have, you can order it today and hold it in your hands. Go to Amazon, go to your local bookstore, whatever you have to do, it's out today. I was hoping, it's Tuesday, right? I was hoping to be on the Le Batard Show to be able to promote the book, but I couldn't because they had an excuse why I couldn't be on Tuesday. I had to be on Wednesday. Cockamamie excuse. They had Tim Walz on, the vice presidential candidate, okay? Not even a presidential candidate, but they bumped me, okay? Okay, they bumped me. So we're doing the best we can. We're recording our own professionally directed video here because what day is it? It's back in my day. That kind of thing.
Was that Jumpin' Charlie clackety
Yes, it
clacking
was.
on the
Classic
floor?
Charlie, yeah.
Put it on the poll at Le Batard Show. Over under on the age of a person who uses the word cockamamie. 100 over or under. That was a very slow video
For the people,
from Greg Cody.
for the audio people, you got to watch it because the lighting couldn't be worse. It's just
It's jaundiced.
it's a delight to look at.
The video is jaundiced.
Not Greg, the video.
No, all
Right,
of it.
yes,
Everything in the video, including the book. The book is the color of unbrushed teeth. Lucy, I don't believe that you and Jessica were here last week because for as much as we make fun of Greg Cody, Chris Cody hasn't fallen that far from the rotten tree. And now that he's back after 5 days of doing God knows what in Key West, I don't believe that he, Lucy, or Jessica are aware of the I-Team investigation that our show did that shames Chris Cody. Do you know anything about this, Lucy?
No, I do not. I don't live here, so I definitely wasn't here last week. So.
Okay, I don't know if Chris knows either, but please put a close-up on his face right now so that we can see the twitching begin. Jessica, you and I were talking just before the show, and you were saying that you often use that staircase that is in a new building that is a secret route where we thought we're the only ones who go and use that staircase, that there's no one else using it.
I thought so until a few months ago, this like venti Starbucks cup showed up, and I've just been monitoring the progression of it getting more and more disgusting and moldy over the last few months. But you're right, Dan. I don't know anything about this. By I-Team, do you mean Magnum PI?
I do not mean, I mean Columbo. Columbo leads our investigative effort. Chris, you're a litterer. We have found an
People were tweeting me that all weekend, and I was just like, who saw
That's
me litter
your
in the
cup?
keys? Well, that is.
In the keys?
No, I didn't litter in the keys. I was just like thinking, did I? Because I was like, why am I getting a random tweet?
No, Chris, that's disgusting.
First of all, that's inside. That's not littering.
So it doesn't count.
Yeah,
littering
not littering.
inside doesn't
Has to be
count.
outside to be
You just
littering.
throw garbage anywhere inside. It doesn't.
No, first of
not
all,
littering.
that actually, the story behind that was one day I was leaving and it was pouring. And I was like, okay, I don't want, like, I have a cup. So I put the cup down. And then a couple days later, I saw it started, like, growing something in it. And I was like, let's see where this goes. So now I'm just going to leave it here. And
You were
let's-
doing a science
Yeah,
experiment
I was like,
inside
oh my-
the stairwell
I was
at
like,
our workplace?
I was like staring at it. I was like, is that dirt? I'm like, oh, there's mold.
There was
growing
mold
here.
on a different cup. This isn't the cup that's got mold on it. I don't understand
Yeah, that one had
using the
mold.
staircase as a garbage
Well,
can.
there's no garbage down there. And it was raining.
And it's
Right.
inside.
That's not littering.
What does the rain have
let's
to
look,
do
what's
with
the
it?
definition?
He is right about littering. You have to do it outside.
But it was there
Yes.
for several days,
Yeah.
days that it wasn't raining, but you refused to throw it away because you realized that there was mold growing
Yeah, I was like,
inside of
let's-
it. And then science was your higher
let's see
calling.
where it goes.
Let's see where this takes
Who
us.
did you think was going to clean up after you?
I imagine somebody would clean that stairwell at some point.
Mean.
That staircase is disgusting.
Very dusty.
It's new.
Yeah.
We can't make that a littering mess, but I do want to talk about the general rules that are being applied here. Kent, put it on the poll, please, Juju, at Le Batard Show. Can you litter indoors? Because
you can't do it, man. I just did an image search on Google, and every single picture is people littering outside. Yeah, it's outside. It's an outdoor activity. I mean, yeah.
I wish Greg was here because I would like to ask Chris who raised you, and then interrogate
My dad
Greg about this.
Like I grew up. I don't litter like outside.
Right.
don't.
Then you don't litter.
I have not thrown something outside my window probably since I was like 16.
Good boy.
And it was an egg.
Chris,
Ooh,
I'm not even kidding. Like I didn't know anything about this one. I didn't know that was your Starbucks cup when I came in. That was purely chance. Because this thing, it's been so disgusting that I've started using a different stairwell and taking the long way out of the building because it's so gross.
I use that stairwell every day now to check up on it and see how's it going. So you guys moved it, so now it's gone?
somebody kicked it over and then it made a spilled mess, and it was even more disgusting.
Who would do that?
Yes.
Who would kick that over?
I'm mortified
B.
by all of it. I think you guys are more feral than Wolverines. I think it doesn't make any sense to me that you guys would take a new staircase and fill it with garbage.
I'm looking at a definition here of litter. Trash, such as paper, cans, bottles, that is left lying in an open or public place.
Okay, go sit in the penalty box.
The act
here.
of dropping trash on the ground in a public place.
A public stairwell.
For ruining comedy.
I think Tony's better.
You've been off for 5 days.
To be determined.
And you
Dan
come
is
back and you get back on the treadmill and you can't speak and you litter and you do science experiments in the disgusting
It's
stairwell.
not litter. I just read the definition.
All right,
It's a
get
public
out of here.
space. It's a public stairwell.
Okay.
That's a
It's
public
places.
space, Billy.
Yeah.
You know what?
That stairwell's public.
The public never gathers in that staircase.
This is a
I'm with
private
Chris.
building.
Yeah,
You know
for 2
what?
minutes. Yeah.
Fine. Semantics. You're not a litterer. You're just an unbearable slob. Whatever. Get out.
There.
In Chris's defense, I walked down that stairwell after the fact because that day we had a lot of people complaining, saying there's a lot of trash in that stairwell. It's not just that, which I guess someone has done video of all the trash that's in the stairwell, and now you're seeing all of the different things. So when you go out the door, exactly, there's a corner where people
Come
have just
on, man.
stacked
Come
cups,
on, man.
which are very clearly from this office as well.
That's really bad. The Elser treats us so well. This is a great new building. Why are we doing this?
It's hard to fathom that these are all things that are free because we've got an eating area where all the food is free, and the result is people just gorge the food and then dump the junk wherever it is that they want to that isn't a trash can. It's only us. Like this cannot be anyone else because it's a private stairwell. Like it's only us using that. I can't believe we're this disgusting as a show.
I am speechless right now. I should have expected that it was us, but I'm still shocked. I'm sad. I'm disappointed. What should we do to Chris?
I've
be punished.
I've got an idea.
For what?
I think he should do a show where he has to spend the whole show picking up trash on the beach and do phone-ins from the beach. And we should
What?
put him in like an orange jumpsuit or something so that we make him a criminal. Like we make him a slob criminal and we punish and shame him publicly.
He didn't drop anything on the beach. He dropped it in a stairwell.
Understood,
I mean,
but the punishment would be to clean up the beach a little
We
bit.
should also
Alright.
clean up the stairwell and also fix the light bulb that's been flickering down there for the last few
Yeah,
months.
and there's a light bulb that's been flickering in my house too. If we're on the subject, that maybe
Okay,
he can go
He should
fix.
go
this
fix
is not
that.
going to make
Yeah.
him
He
your
should clean-
handyman.
He should clean up the trash in all of our like private homes.
Yeah, he should cut my lawn.
Because he didn't litter in public, but he did leave trash in private.
That light feels like something out of a horror movie. The flickering light in the stairwell. It feels a bit haunted.
There's a
in there.
worse one. There's another stairwell that it's a lot darker and has a flickering light, which is the only source of light. At least this one's flickering, but there's other sources of light. That one, that's the only source of light. And sometimes weird music is playing
Where
in
is
the
this
stairwell. I don't know where it's coming from, whether it's above us or below us, but weird music is playing as the lights are flickering. And I said, you know what? This stairwell, not for me. Stop taking it.
Yeah, I've heard that music too. I'm pretty sure it's a 10-year-old girl singing who died in 1798. It's
Or
really
tinnitus.
it's really haunting. Lucy, how do you feel learning this about your colleagues? Like, I think there are times that you learn things about people and certain defining facts where you're like, think slightly less of you than I did before.
Why do you think I left?
Because Chris is a litterer who's not a litterer, who's just a slob.
By the way,
Yeah.
I saw like they showed the shot of that stairwell. There's a lot of shit from this office that's down there that isn't me.
I believe it is you, though. There's one with your name on it. So
Well, that's not
So
fair.
you think
I
you
mean-
think I'm willing to be like this one cup is me, but not like why would like you think this is shameful for
well,
me?
the one cup that is you
Like,
has your
this
name
is-
on it. It'd
this
be
is
hard to deny.
This is child's play of shame. Like when you guys first were like, Chris is zoom in on, I was like, oh my
You're
God,
right.
what do they know?
This is
After
nothing.
the weekend I've had, I was like, what do they know? And this is what you guys have for me? I'm laughing.
Baby.
I'm cackling.
I agree with Chris there. I do believe that there's more than one person leaving trash in the
I don't
from
use
this
like
office.
those brown cups I use here for water. I never have exited these places with those brown cups.
There was a Dunkin' Donuts cup that had green mold
Don't
on the
go to
corner
Dunkin'.
that people thought was either you or your dad.
It could be my dad.
I mean, what Chris is saying is you brought a knife to a gunfight. I mean.
Well, only because the person I'm fighting against can't be killed because they have no actual shame. Like what I'm describing here is a level of carelessness and inconsideration for others that would cause the median human being shame.
But it's also kind of like the Zodiac killer killed someone, and then there's a bunch of bodies around the one that Zodiac killer very clearly killed, and then the Zodiac killer's like, what, me? Why would you think I had anything to do with the other murders?
There's only one with your name on it. Like we can't put name on the Oreo cookies wrapper. I think they're all you. I don't believe that we have a slew of people here who are that kind of gross.
I mean,
We have some pretty gross people here.
Okay, maybe
Respectfully.
some pretty gross people, but not a slew of them. I do believe we have plenty.
I think we have a slew. I do.
Okay, you
have
guys
you ever
disagree
seen a
with me.
sink after a lunch around here, Dan?
They don't know how to clean up after themselves. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. It is like something that is between toddlers and sort of feral ferrets.
Why the rain? Why did the rain inspire you to leave the cup?
Because there was little liquid left in it. I don't want liquid getting in it. I was just done with it.
Oh my God.
Still no clarity on the
Cleared it up
rain.
for me.
No, I mean, it's raining. It's pouring out.
Right.
Old
It
man
didn't give
snoring.
off walking around with a cup.
Okay. Chris, if you're going to own it, just own
No,
it. You left the cup there.
No,
it's
that,
okay.
It
I'm with
was
you.
raining that day.
I'm with
though.
you.
I'm like, it's not a lie. Like
Okay.
that is what happened.
But
That
you
was-
didn't leave the cup there because of the rain. You just left the cup there because you left the cup
I've walked
there.
out with cups many a times, and I either bring it in my car or throw it away. I put it down because it was pouring.
Okay.
Like that is why I did it.
Why wouldn't you just turn around and throw it away in the office?
There's no garbage. That's a lot of stairs.
We
to
have
walk
garbage
up.
here.
No, I'm saying that's
We do
that's
have
like a
garbage.
floor and a
Right.
half.
He has to walk back up.
A floor and a half.
I mean, that's a lot.
Up's a lot harder than down.
It is.
Yeah.
A floor and a half is a lot of stairs.
Now people know we work on
Yeah.
the first and a half floor.
Man, this is not like you guys. This isn't doing anything right now for me.
Right.
Like this.
You're not even sweating. Right.
You guys are all everyone like Dan's just like I can't believe it's just like
The audience is mortified by you.
like three people tweeted, "Hey, go
Now,
litter," or
now
something.
everyone knows, and I'm telling them, bury Chris Cody. Stugotz, do you know anything about the Kill Tony podcast? Do you know the name Tony Hinchcliffe for any reason whatsoever?
I do not.
Okay, so there are a group of comedians. It's a rather large group that have been knighted by Joe Rogan and Cat Williams and others. Object to the level of fame and power that they have gotten because many people believe in the world of comedians that they have not earned, through funny, the top of the court jester rankings. Cat Williams is one of the few willing to actually put his name on it. Everyone else is kind of afraid of doing this to them because it's a powerful group of people, and Joe Rogan has assembled a monster power to basically become what Johnny Carson used to be on late night television. So very few people end up being critical of some of the stuff that's happening, even as it arrives at what felt like a modern day version of a Nazi rally at Madison Square Garden that Trump's entire crew now doesn't know whether to double down or totally back away from because it was racist. And at the center of the racism was Tony Hinchcliffe trying to do a comedic set when surrounded by something that is otherwise pretty hateful. And even RFK is walking away from that saying, wow, that was unfortunate, doing that joke at Puerto Rico's expense. And Mike Ryan pointed out yesterday that many of these guys are opportunists and profiteers. There's a lane for Andrew Schultz. I remember when we started during the pandemic, Andrew Schultz was trying to reach out to figure out how to do some of the stuff he has now done very well, which is create a lane for his comedy that makes him sort of too dangerous for the mainstream. And now, next thing you know, he's laughing in Trump's face as Trump grants him an interview and says to Andrew Schultz's face, I'm basically a truthful person. And Andrew Schultz is just laughing at him. Mark Maron, who is one of the wise old voices in comedy and does a really good job of pointing out where anti-Semitism exists, writes on Twitter something that you have not seen a lot of comedians brave enough to do because this is a powerful group of comedians and they don't tend to attack in-house. He writes, the anti-woke flank of the new fascism is being driven almost exclusively by comics, my peers. Whether or not they are self-serving or true believers in the new fascism is unimportant. They are of the movement. Whether they see themselves as acolytes or just comics doesn't matter. Whether they're driven by the idea that what they are fighting for is a free speech issue or whether they are truly morally bankrupt racists doesn't matter. They are part of the public face of a fascist political movement that seeks to destroy the democratic idea. When comedians with podcasts have shameless, self-proclaimed white supremacists and fascists on their show to joke around like they're just entertainers or even just politicians, all it does is humanize and normalize fascism. When someone uses their platform for that reason, they are facilitating anti-American sentiment and promoting violent autocracy. Very few comedians are willing to do this in-house because of the fear that they have of other comedians. This is one of the few who has the kinds of credentials that nobody's going to really go after his intellect. It is a bit dangerous to war with Mark Maron because he has his own power and he's the OG. He was doing that stuff that they're doing now before all of them were doing it.
He's the KG vet?
Yeah, I mean, he started doing a podcast in his garage. It blew up. It had an IFC spinoff, right, which was kind of borrowing from the podcast and then scripted. Additionally, Mark Maron's bang on there. It's been my whole apprehension with this whole recent thing of even our show has been very culpable in it, putting these comedians on pedestals. If Mussolini were around today, he'd go on a podcast hosted by a fledgling comedian, and that comedian would then go from clubs to theaters. That's the grift. And playing to the right has opened up a whole new customer base. In fact, you invoke Schultz. Do you remember what Schultz was doing observationally at the start of COVID?
I remember that he had a stand-up special that other stand-ups didn't think was a special because it was very well written, but he was doing it off of a prompter, and it was like minutes at a time on Netflix.
To me, I was introduced to him with those IG videos when everybody was looking for content, when everybody was looking for a voice. He was kind of an equal opportunist, but really more observational humor. And then once, lockdown stopped and he started playing shows, he just veered more and more right. Even you, as you mentioned, well, he laughed in Trump's face. He loves that because the left has kind of seized on that. If you've seen his promos since, he's still playing to that new base that he's created. A lot of these, and I happen to think he's talented, but a lot of the comedians that have ascended during this time playing to this new right-wing audience, they're not the most talented people in the bunch. A lot of them have failed. Now, that's the story of stand-up comedy. Sometimes it takes 20 years for guys to break. Mark Maron was a guy that broke because of a podcast and wasn't because he played to a right-leaning base. But I do think that we need to be discerning here. They're looking to cultivate an audience and go from clubs to theaters to arenas. And it's all been fast-tracked.
They're all doing that, though. They have gotten to the arenas. They're long past clubs. Like this group of people, Joe Rogan has a power base in Austin, and I'm not kidding you when I say he is the new knighter of comedians. Other comedians look at the ones that he has knighted and are afraid to say what Cat Williams says, which is some form of those guys aren't as funny as the guys that I respect as funny, but they are the ones profiting now. And one of them is Hinchcliffe, who I don't know if you guys saw the reporting on this, but he actually took out, he was going to call Kamala Harris, see you next Tuesday. Like it was taken out of he had workshopped some of the stuff in a New York comedy club, and that was too over the line. And I think he complied on some stuff during the Tom Brady roast, which is a venue more appropriate for some of the stuff that he was trying. But in this case, he was edited. I can't even imagine what would have happened there if he hadn't edited that one and he had just thrown that in the middle of a rally that RFK is backing away from, saying, look, that was unfortunate that we did that kind of racism to Puerto Rico and Hispanics.
It's been an effective strategic marketing ploy by going to taste-making podcast and normalizing the conversation and, let me crack open a seltzer with the Nelk Boys. And it's just all part of their very effective strategy. How can it be fascism if we're all laughing along? This guy seems pretty cool. How can he be a fascist? He's just a stand-up comedian. How can he be allowing this? But if you put Stalin in a uniform in that day, if there were podcasts around, he'd be doing the same approach. And it's a strategy, by the way, that we're complicit to on the left side. The left side, they'll go and call her daddy. This is how you speak to specific bases. But there is something really effective about right-leaning truth tellers, independent thinkers on the right side in terms of normalizing that conversation. And Mark Maron totally nailed it on the head with.
I saw Jon Stewart had a conversation that he was having recently about when he realized that one of his shows was going to die at, I don't remember where it was. It was the early incarnation of one of his shows, and one of the first skits had Dave Attell come out as Hitler, holding a bagel and coming out to just do the talk show circuit. There's a skit here of Stalin or Mussolini just going on a podcast and like surrounded by commercial reads because of how we're normalizing some of this stuff.
Can you explain though, like what you mean by Kamala Harris going on Call Her Daddy to talk about women's reproductive rights is similar to any of the stuff that we're talking about?
Irrefutably, the strategy is the same. Let me go on a podcast and speak to a specific base, and that gives me direct access to an audience. You can certainly disagree with the message. I don't think the messages are anything similar. But no, the strategy in this whole new media world is where they would go on the evening news. And it's not to say that they're not still doing that. They're really focusing their energy on podcasts. And I would say the left is probably a little late to the party.
She's also going on 60 Minutes, though, and doing, like, mainstream media interviews.
Yeah, which I said. I don't understand why we're seizing on this. Like, yes, this is a campaign strategy of the 21st century, but what I'm saying is the conservatives saw this first, and they cornered the market on it, and they have the bigger podcast.
Next Tuesday is a giant day. It is, of course.
Deadline day.
That was not rehearsed, even though it sounded like it was. We've got NFL trade deadline day next week, and Diana Rossini is a senior NFL insider for The Athletic. Scoop City is the name of her very popular podcast. I want to play for her some of the sound, embarrassing sound, from Jermaine Illuminor, the tackle for the New York Giants. He said in a game before he allowed 7 tackles and 2 sacks, I guess only 2 of the sacks were his fault. TJ Watt had 3 and a strip sack as well. This is what Illuminor had to say before the game.
Collectively about this line and what, proving to yourselves. You look at a matchup like this for you when you have, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL. How do you deal with it?
I love it. Shoot, I've been telling y'all no one's confident guy in this locker room. And I think you can see that through my play this year. And so I love it. I want to be on the island with them all day.
Diana, can you give me, and thank you for joining us, a history lesson here? Outside of Lawrence Taylor, there are a handful of these guys doing it now. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and this human being. But I have to go back to Lawrence Taylor to find a guy who's so unblockable that he continually gets strip sacks. TJ Watt as a player historically is what as a defensive player?
The best player, the best Watt player. Right. I think he's better than his brother at this point. Obviously, JJ is respected all around the league, a future Hall of Famer. I think we're at a point where there's no question his brother's better. And he's got his support, because do you see JJ last night on Twitter giving his brother all that love after his brother once again is just winning games for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
I always love talking to people around the league about what they think about star players. Like, man, what would he look like in your system? And he's one of those players, probably along with Myles Garrett and Max Crosby, as just, they're just the dream. Those are the guys that you build your entire franchise around. So look, I can appreciate when a Giants player wants to at least show some confidence that, yeah, bring it on, let's do this. I wouldn't like it if he told the media there, like, yeah, I'm actually scared out of my mind. Our offensive line has been garbage for a century. But that's not what he did. It's just the receipts. They kill you.
Do you really think J.J. Watt thinks his brother is better than him? Like, he might say that publicly. He might put it out on social media. That's classic J.J. But in private moments, there is no way J.J. is telling anyone that T.J. is better than I was.
Oh, no. No. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. I wonder if he'd be different, though, if he wasn't in the media now. But... he's just like playing his brother off, trying to get him every award that he could possibly win, get him more money, I'm sure. But yeah, no, JJ Watt, there's no way JJ Watt thinks any human being is better than him.
At anything.
At anything. Making children, fixing the backyard,
playing an entire football game with an eagle on your shoulder pad.
Yeah.
Diana, I saw after the game that Daniel Jones said that the strip sack was actually his fault because he was supposed to send the tight end in motion to chip and help out with the block there against Watt. So, I guess my question is like a macro one. Like, what do the Giants do with Daniel Jones now? What is Brian Daboll's hot seat status? Like, it's a pretty bad mistake to make in a season full of a lot of really bad mistakes.
I know, Jess. It's funny because I feel like we're seeing so much blame. People pointing blame when we don't normally see that, right? Like, or I feel like so many other teams are going, like, look at Jerry Jones. He's like, it's the coach's fault. It's the play calling. So I think that was Daniel Jones. Look, some of that was his fault, but I think that was also him taking the hit for something that wasn't entirely his fault. But look, just listen to Brian Daboll after the game. I mean, how many times did he mention that Daniel Jones just was not good enough? Usually the head coach is up there saying, we all got to be better. We all need to do more. But it is very evident that the New York Giants are out on Daniel Jones. Obviously, this was a decision this regime made. Obviously, Joe Schoen, the general manager, and Brian Daboll signed off on. They're the ones who made this happen. The same people that moved on from Saquon Barkley. So they chose Daniel Jones over paying Saquon, and now they're living in it. And we know that they weren't sold on Daniel Jones in the offseason because we saw it on Hard Knocks. We saw that they try to move up to get a quarterback. So now I feel like they're just living in this hell of, we don't really want this guy. He's tough as hell. He is. He's tough. I mean, that is one thing people always tell me about him is just he stands in the pocket and he's just getting slammed around every week, but he's still making mistakes that are costing them games and he's not able to take care of the football.
In my lifetime, Diane, I think there are only 5 that I have done this with watching football. I believe I thought on late drives, Lawrence Taylor's about to do something. I have thought of Reggie White is about to do something. Defensive players. Ed Reed is about to do something late in the game. Aaron Donald is about to do something. And Mike Ryan, late in that game last night, is saying, there will be some time here where the Giants have the football and TJ Watt is going to touch it. TJ Watt is going to get his hands on the football here. It's just such a rare thing with defensive players. I can count them on one hand.
Yeah, there are just not that many that can do that and completely change the direction of where it's going. We obviously always point to the offensive players being the playmakers, the one to do it. But when you're getting double, triple teamed every single game, because I think that's another element to this that you forget when you're watching these guys. They're already dealing with more than what the normal defender has to deal with. Every team is game planning against them. So obviously that is unique and special. And I don't know who's going to be the Bill Belichick to TJ, the way Bill Belichick talks about Ed Reed. We'll figure out who's going to be that coach one day who just goes on and just seems pretty in love with the guy. But I can tell you in Pittsburgh, he's certainly beloved by that coaching staff.
So right on time, everyone last week called the Ravens the best team in the NFL. So right on cue, they lose to the Cleveland Browns. I'm curious, Diana, if you've touched base with your Cleveland Browns sources to see how they're feeling about things. Now, they didn't make just the Watson change. Their hand was forced there. Ken Dorsey took over play calling to coincide with the move to Jameis. And I'm curious what they're feeling about this season. Is it still pack it in, or do they actually think that they can go on a Flacco-like run now with Jameis?
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns are alive. They are back. They needed this win. I can't remember the last time the Cleveland Browns as an organization needed something to fall their way more than this game did. Not, from ownership all the way down to the players in the locker room. How many times did we talk about this on the show? Like, everyone knows what the problem is. We all know. We understand the contract that they gave Deshaun Watson, but this team looked miserable on the field every week for a variety of reasons. So the fact that Jameis was able to spark some life, play calling's been changed over to Ken Dorsey, which is allowing Kevin Stefanski to do more with the entire team and sort of get his hands dirty in making sure that different parts of the game are better. The offensive line, that was the best protection I've seen from Cleveland all year. That's been their Achilles heel without a doubt outside of Deshaun. So
well, he holds the ball too long, though, too. Like, it's not just offensive line. Deshaun Watson, isn't he guilty of holding the ball longer than any quarterback in the league as the whole sport moves to getting rid of it quickly?
He does, but there wasn't a lot being done to help him in that situation, too, in terms of protecting him. And I think that's where this was becoming such a big problem, because the offensive line wasn't doing what Stefanski wanted, knowing Deshaun Watson was going to be holding the ball so much. Now, Jameis isn't much better at it either. If you saw, there were certain times where you're like, Jameis, throw the ball. What are we doing? What are we doing? But the fact that he was able to create this much offense, and guys, it's one of these things where, when you're around teams and you hear about leadership, I never really got the feeling being around the Cleveland Browns that Jameis was this outstanding leader that was giving and supplying answers to this locker room. He was loud. I don't necessarily believe that everyone was signed off in following him. So I think getting a win like this for Jameis, I think they now are going to start following more. He needed to back up a lot of those words. So I just think overall for what we all saw on television, the producer of Scoop City, she is the wife of a player on the Browns. And she told me that was the first time she left the game and sat in bumper to bumper traffic. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, think about it. We're so bad. Everyone leaves early. She's like, people stay to the end of the game, right? And if that doesn't tell you just how great things are in Cleveland, they're psyched about traffic because that means maybe they're winning.
I will say this again, by the way, because the stats are jarring, right, given the contract that Deshaun Watson has. That's the first time the Browns have scored 20 points this season. And he threw for more than 300 yards. Jameis Winston did. Deshaun Watson hasn't done that in a Browns uniform.
Right.
It's a
no
bit,
interceptions as well.
It's a bit stunning. He had a fumble because he does hold the ball too long. He had a fumble that could have cost them the game because of where it is that it happened. Diana, where are you on what the fallout should be with the way that Chicago Bears game ended?
In terms of how do you defend the Hail Mary that way? I mean, to me, when you're
What was that? What just happened?
Hail
there?
Mary.
What just happened? Well, not just what should be the fallout? I hear people talking about firing people.
It's ridiculous.
It's
never going to happen again. It's a Hail Mary. It was a lucky play.
That's how Eddie Vedder would say.
Yeah.
Hail Mary.
Look, so I think one of the things about that, and I did that on Sunday where I was just reaching out to people around the league to just try to get an idea of like what happens in preparation on a football team. How much are you actually practicing defending that? And I guess a lot. That's what I discovered. I didn't realize that this is like part of things that you do during training camp. And we're seeing Hail Marys, pretty frequent this season, last season. So this isn't that weird or abnormal for the Chicago Bears to see. It's not some trick play that, Dan Quinn or Cliff Kingsbury stole from some high school varsity football team in Boston. This is a play that you are expected to know and even understand how to defend it from early years of playing football. So the fact that wasn't executed well, the fact that they didn't call a timeout, the fact that they didn't rush more than 3, there are so many parts of that are being shown to teams around the league, or at least teams are showing it. As, hey, don't do this. Don't do it this way. So they went from being a team that was close to winning to now being the poster of what not to do.
Diana, where do you stand on the 1 foot double tapping versus 2 feet down versus one knee is 2 feet versus one butt cheek is 2 feet versus one elbow is 2 feet debate?
So dumb. That was so dumb. I can't wait for the offseason, actually. I normally hang out outside the competition committee meetings because what you do is you just stand out there and you wait for them to come out and you bug the people on the committee. Mike Tomlin's one of them. And you just try to find out what they're discussing. They are going to be discussing that. There is like if I had a guess, and I want to see how this is going to be sort of taken care of, because how is that not a touchdown? I mean, that was so clear. And the fact that left foot, right foot, that, in my opinion, that they need to change that rule.
I also don't understand how George Pickens gets thrown 15 yards out of the end zone before his other foot goes down, basically. Like, his first foot hit the paint, and somehow he can't get another one down before he's out of the back of the end zone.
Billy, next time the Steelers play, don't get distracted by any other parts of the game. Just watch George Pickens. He's doing weird things all the time. Like, in piles, after he gets tackled. I noticed it more last night than ever, where I'm like, wait, why? How did his leg do that? I think he just plays weird, but he makes plays, and he's obviously become the most.
I don't think that's good, Diana. I don't think that's good analysis.
No, it is.
Pickens
it's 100%
just plays
accurate.
weird.
It's the only explanation I have for him not putting that other foot down. What are we doing? Put the other foot down. What is this?
Okay, so this is a real thing. I think some athletes, they are not as clean with their bodies when they're in that moment, when they're dealing with pressure, literal pressure, and trying to make plays. Some are just flimsy and floppy and Gumby-like. Truthfully, I was like that as a soccer player. And you can get away with things like that at times, and it makes plays happen. But like we saw last night, that sloppiness hurt him because obviously having just 1 foot do it, which think about how hard that is. Like, try doing that today when you're walking. Just double hop on 1 foot. That's hard. I don't think that it's easier to put your other foot down. I don't understand why he didn't do that. But the takeaway is he plays weird, but he's damn good.
He also just jumped up and elbow dropped someone trying to get over them on a tackle. Did you see that?
Well, yeah, I did see that. How was that not called? What was that?
He just does crazy things out there.
That's
It was a bit of. It was The Rock. It's The Rock's finishing move.
He didn't even
This
have
is
to
exactly
jump out.
It's what I'm saying. You guys think I'm acting nuts. He plays weird.
Yeah, he does. Diana, we were discussing earlier, Chris left a coffee cup in a stairwell, and I'm wondering, do you think it is littering if you do it inside?
Was there coffee in it?
A little bit.
Yeah, and then
If it makes a difference,
kicked
it's tea,
over.
not coffee.
Okay,
Yeah.
it got kicked over, and now there's brown juice all over the
Because I
stairs.
maintain you can only litter outside. That's it.
It was also, to be fair, it was there because it was raining 2 weeks ago,
Right, it was
and he
raining.
didn't want
Pouring.
the cup
Good
to
that you're
get
being
wet.
fair.
Yeah,
It's
and
good.
then he
It's
came
good.
back
Fairness
and he
is
all the
saw
facts.
something
Yes.
growing,
Always
so he
fair.
wanted it to be a
Always
science
fair,
experiment.
Billy Gill.
Yeah.
That's right.
Science.
So essentially, it was like there was no garbage can inside, and he was too lazy to go find one, so he just put it on the stairs.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And it
that's
was
disgusting.
raining. Yes, it is disgusting.
Yeah, but-
It,
Yeah.
and it was
By the
raining.
way, why is there so much litter in that stairwell?
Yes,
Good question.
Exactly right.
Mm.
Because
So
I'm
it
going to
is
get to the
litter.
bottom of this.
The litter is outside. It's not in the stairwell.
I employ an assortment of savages is what the problem is. People who have not been taught anything.
There's also a church here.
So I have a question for you. The other
What?
day I was driving and I was chewing gum and I didn't want to chew the gum anymore. I was about to like sip my coffee or something, so I wanted to spit it out and I didn't have anything to put it in, but I didn't want to put it in the console. And I just had to make a decision. Do I open the window and throw out the gum? Or do I just stick it on the side of my door until I get to?
You can't do gum because you can harm birds and stuff with gum. But I'm willing to make some exceptions for biodegradable things that feed animals that don't qualify for me as littering. I'm willing to make some. If you take a piece of a banana, not the peel necessarily, but a piece of a banana and throw it in the grass, I think of it as less littering than other
Thank
kinds
you
of
for going
littering.
out on that limb, Dan.
Really? That's how you justify
Pretty
it?
brave of you. Yeah.
You need to be careful with the banana peel. This is the true story. I was
You
walking
can slip
with my
on
son.
it. O'Doyle rules.
My 2-year-old son slipped on a banana peel. I'm like,
Right.
no, that doesn't really happen, but it did. So you have to be careful. But what about like I've done this before where I'm peeling an orange in the car?
Mm-hmm.
Is the peel? Is that fair?
I think that's less. I think that's more dangerous than the pulp.
It happened to me leaving the train.
No way.
4 months ago.
How do you know?
Yeah, we talked about it. I
Are you
slid
the guy
on
from
it.
Tony's story?
I was like, well, how
Or the
about
foot
this?
guy in Kristen's story.
It's
Kirsten's
actually
story.
a thing.
I have
What do
one
you
more.
think
Sorry, Diana. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have one more Steelers question before we move on. The
we're
Steelers
talking
special teams coordinator, Danny Smith,
litter.
he's having a moment this year, and I wanted to nominate this sound for the club. This was him last week at a press conference.
I'm cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
That was good.
So he's like beloved in the league for years, even before he was in Pittsburgh. Everyone loves Danny. Like he's all energy. He's obviously, from what you've seen, what you heard, he's older, cut from a different cloth. But he has that unique ability. But by the way, they're winning on special teams. That's what makes him even better, is the fact that unit is become really successful this season. I mean, they're always decent, but this year they're really good. And he's just one of those. Do you see him on the sideline? How many special teams coordinators are standing next to the head coach as much as you see Danny? Right? He's in it. He could be the head coach sometimes, the way he behaves on the sideline. He's so in on every single play. I think that's that juice that the guys like.
Chewing his gum and going, ha 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 ha.
You left us on a cliffhanger there, Diana, and we don't know what you did with your gum. I have a suggestion for you if you'd want it, because straight gum that you step on has somewhat become an endangered species in my life. Like, I used to step on a lot more gum than I do now. It just doesn't happen anymore. So I don't know what you did with yours, but I have an idea of what you can do with it in the future if you're in this situation again.
Please share.
I was thinking, so if you were getting out of your car, you could either, you said put it on the side of your car, or you could spit on the floor. What if you put it on your tire? Because it doesn't really matter if it's on your tire, right? And then no one will step on it. You'll just drive over it, and it just sticks to your tire. Who cares?
My thing is, where do you put it when you're in the car, though? Because that's my issue, right? You're driving. I'm not pulling over to throw my gum out. So where can I put my gum?
That happens to me on planes. I keep the wrapper, though, like inside my pocket just in case. But I don't know what kind of magic trick it is with gum. It never fits back in the wrapper when you go to spit it out. The wrapper's always too small for the ball of gum.
What do you think the most common thing is that people throw out their window when they're driving?
Boogers.
Cigarettes.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Has gum you step on become an endangered species at Le Batard Show? Among the results from Sunday, Diana.
I just really need to know what you did with the gum
Yeah,
first, Dan.
thank you.
The most interesting
Finally.
one was what? The most interesting of the results from Sundays. I'm just going to go ahead and segue. Once Billy gets to boogers, I
Right.
decide to go a different direction.
She was telling a gum story.
That's real.
Okay. Most interesting result from Sunday was blank. You only get to pick one.
Billy, I swallowed the gum just for your.
Oh,
for
wow.
knowledge.
Wow,
You'll see it in
dangerous.
7 years.
Yeah, dangerous.
Like witty.
To the Commanders, just the fashion that they won in, the way they did it, that's what that team's been about. It just every year we see it. There's a team that where the breaks fall their way, and they just have something special about them. And I can't believe it's Washington. I usually it just seems like the gods skip over that team, and now they're all in. So the fact that they were able to win that way, and just that moment, and seeing what that stadium looked like, seeing what the sideline looked like. And to me, my biggest observation as just someone watching it on television, just the fact that their quarterback was so even keeled about it. I know he's got that cool California laid backness about him, but I think that to me, when you can show poise and almost calm in the high moments, you're going to be able to do that in the low ones. And so I think to me that was such a win from just the way he was carrying himself and the way he was talking around about the play. Because how could you not go nuts after that? I mean, every person lost their mind watching that game, whether they cared or not, and just because of the fashion in which they won. And so the fact that the man that threw that ball and completed it and won the game for the team was just acting like it was just a normal run-of-the-mill day, I think that's just nothing but great news for this team.
I saw a ton of investigative journalism being done about the amount of Uncrustables that are consumed by the people in the NFL.
So good.
Love those.
80,000 Uncrustables a year.
Sounds like a Sunday
The Broncos
after Valhalla.
are 700 a week. 700 a
Wow.
week the Broncos shove in their face. You have kids, Diana. Are you shoving Uncrustables in their maws?
Yeah, I am. I think teams use them the same way parents do. It's just easy. They're made already. They're wrapped. I just found out they're not healthy, so I'm a little upset about that. But they get the job done. Peanut butter and jelly, classic.
It is a favorite around here.
What are the Saints doing? Only 50. I mean, jeez.
That graphic was actually predictive analysis for the Thursday nighter 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So the
Broncos at
Athletic
top
did
of the
that. Jason Jenks is the writer, and he did that story. And on our internal communication space at the Athletic, you can see what everyone's working on. And I remember being like, what is that story going to be? And Jason, I love Jason. He's great. He's a good writer. He's creative. I'm like, dud. We'll see what that story is. That thing comes out. That's probably the best story the Athletic has done in the last 6 months. Everyone's talking about it. So it just goes to... It was such a moment of, man, you're just out here digging on trying to find out what's going on with ownership in the New York Jets and the New York Giants building. What direction are these people going? Readers don't care. They want to know about what the guys are eating.
That's right.
I need to chill out and start
That is
tapping into
correct.
more of those fun stories. You know, Dan?
You thought it was a dud. Can you explain to me what the Jordan Love injury was? I haven't quite seen what happened there, where he's walking around and then he just collapses on the sideline.
Yeah, so obviously you know that he dealt with that knee injury earlier in the season. So the fear was that he re-injured it, but the good news out of it, it was not. It was the knee. So good news for the Green Bay Packers and good news for the Green Bay Packers as a whole with trading for Malik Willis with the Tennessee Titans, a trade that I don't really think any of us were going, wow, that's the move of the century. In fact, I think most of us on the other side most of it were looking at the other way going, you think? You sure? Because we saw Malik in Tennessee and it wasn't that great. Well, that may go down by the end of the year as the best move made this last year to supply some depth and obviously some answers for the Packers, knowing that Jordan's knee isn't 100% no matter what, because he just hasn't had time to heal.
Diana, is Mike McCarthy going to make it this season, or will he be back next season? What do you think's going to happen there?
You think there's a chance he's coming back?
I'm asking
Is
you.
he going to make it
You
the
would
season?
know.
How
Yeah.
soon? And where's Belichick going to end up?
Oh, okay. So Mike McCarthy will make it through the season. And I think it's because that's just Jerry's way. Jerry said it to my face. 2 weeks ago. I'm not doing that. I don't believe in it. Could he change his mind? I mean, John Mara the other day said Joe Shane and Brian Dable are safe. I mean, I've seen The Godfather 2. I know The Kiss of Death. Like, and by the way, Mara's done this before, right? He did it with Joe Judge. He did it with Ben McAdoo. He's come out and been like, nope, we're sticking with these people. And 2 weeks, 2, 4, 6 weeks later, they fire these guys. To say that your head coach and GM are safe before it's even Halloween is ridiculous. Like, I think that was a wild move by the Giants. And Jerry hasn't said a word about Mike's future. It's basically just been go perform, AKA, you're a lame duck coach. You haven't gotten a new deal for a reason because you need to go win a Super Bowl. And by the way, this Dallas Cowboys team is running the ball and even defending the ground game, I don't see that happening.
What happened with Anthony Richardson? Was he tired?
He was sleepy. Man, that one's a hard one because I've never seen that before. And I think the reaction to it has been pretty wild. Even my co-host Chase Daniel was like, lie, you idiot, lie. Why would you ever tell the media you're tired? And I understand that. And look, today I'm actually expecting it in a few minutes here. They're meeting about discussing a change at quarterback because obviously we know Joe Flacco's there. So I look at it like this. You're Anthony Richardson. You've got the owner, you've got the GM, the head coach, you got teammates all believing in you and confident that you're the guy. They love him in Indy. But you also have a weapon on your team that I know probably 15 other teams would love to have him on their roster, and that's Joe Flacco. So to give any room, any space to allow Joe to take over your job, to me is just dumb and not appreciating the moment and not appreciating this opportunity that you're getting to be the guy. I think that was just I hope that's a really good learning experience for him, but that's got to be a tough situation, I believe, to sell in the locker room, especially to your offensive linemen, guys that are just putting their bodies on the line every single day to protect you, but you're going to take a play out because you got to catch your breath. Like that's a tough one.
If Aaron Rodgers wanted to play, sorry to cut you off. If he wants to play next season, how many teams would be interested in signing Aaron Rodgers?
It's a good question. It's funny. My instinct right there was going to be like non-zero, but that's not that's not the truth. Because look, even Tom Brady didn't have a great market, and Tom was coming off. Obviously there was a fall off there at the end of the season with him, or his last few years in New England. It obviously was not working, but there was definitely people poking around in Brady's market, but everyone expected that to be way more robust than it was. So. Yeah, I guess my instinct on it would be not that many, but there's always that one owner, that one coach who will go, well, the Jets never know what they're doing. They messed that up. I still believe in him. He's a 4-time MVP. It's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still probably the smartest football mind on any field that you put him on. It's just unfortunate. To me, the question, Stu, is I'm asking it, but I actually kind of think I know the answer is he coming back next year? Why would Aaron Rodgers come back next year?
Because this is not the way he wants to end his career. That would be my only guess, and I think he will come back next year.
It's not going to get better after this.
Well,
I think that ship has sailed. I think he's fine with going, this didn't work. I mean, how much longer can he do this? How much longer can he deal with ownership and the carousel of coaches? And he's going to have to deal with a whole new coaching staff, most likely a new GM. And try to find another way to go through this again. I don't know. If he comes back, then he must love pain.
Scoop City is the name of the podcast. She's the senior NFL insider for The Athletic. She'll be with us the entirety of the season. Thank you, Diana. Good talking to you. Good seeing you again, as always.
Thanks, guys.
Stugotz, I believe that you alleged last night that last night was a baseball night for you. Mm-hmm. It was not a football night because you were not interested in watching the now 6-2 Steelers against the Giants. Unfortunately, and this bums me out because I wanted to see the entirety of a tense, dramatic series. I wanted New York's heart to be crushed in the most dramatic of fashions, not swept away very quickly. Right now on Netflix, Meadowlark Media has one of the top 10 things on Netflix, with the only time in sports where a team has rallied from a 3-0 deficit. It was against the Yankees. It was the 2004 Boston Red Sox. Now the Yankees find themselves down 3-0 against the Dodgers. Nobody but Soto has done anything in the World Series for the Yankees. Their offense, this is how they're
Verdugo hit a home run last night.
Okay, very little has been done outside. It's not an
Fat
important
Joe
correction.
performed last night.
Yes, he
also,
did. I like that. Well, you say for some reason. I like that Ice Cube entrance at Dodger Stadium. Did you not? Oh, what's that sound? What's that sound? You didn't like the Ice Cube entrance?
It's fine for your demographic. Not mine.
Ice Cube wasn't standing all over the mound, though. The grounds crew had to be freaking out about that. Fat Joe was like tap dancing on that mound before the game started.
Yeah, and Tim's rude question. Do we think Fat Joe was the first choice?
Jay-Z was clearly the first
Jay-Z would have been the first choice, making the Yankee cap more famous than the Yankees did. My demo is the only one that likes Ice Cube coming out at Dodger Stadium.
Well, Verdugo liked it. He was jumping around. He was excited. We were worried that Verdugo was going to have a big game too, and it was going to be Ice Cube's fault, right? Is that not what everybody was thinking?
No.
I saw what are you talking about? I saw it all over the interwebs. He was dancing as Ice Cube was singing. There was talk, there was scuttlebutt around the baseball communities that maybe Ice Cube coming out was going to have the opposite effect that it was intended to because of how into it Verdugo was. It ended up being, not a big deal. Verdugo didn't have a big game. Yesterday he had a better game. But I think people were also talking about the Ice Cube curse because Shohei Ohtani got injured to the extent that yesterday he was in a sling in the introductions. Now, he still played, but he was in a sling. Something or nothing.
Always a good... Always a good game to play, something or nothing. But if you're in a sling, you're showing off to everybody that you're in a sling.
You are. You're telling everyone you're hurt. He's batting .091 in the World Series. Best player in the world.
And he's still great, and it can happen over a 3-game stretch.
And they don't
1 for 10
not
over
to him.
And they don't need him to win the World Series. They don't need him to win the World Series, and now there's talk that they're just going to go and get Juan Soto also.
Yes, that's right.
Here's the thing that I don't understand, Dan, because I'm like you. I don't like to see the Yankees succeed. I hate the Yankees. I'll even say I hate the Yankees. Growing up, I did not like the Yankees. They would just go out and they'd buy championships, and they were in the World Series every single year. And it was always Bono. It was like the Yankee way, this, and they just outspend everyone. And here's the problem, is that the Dodgers are the exact same thing. So I find it hard to root for the Dodgers over the Yankees. However, I still hate the Yankees because I hated them as a little boy, and I'm not going to grow out of that. I'm always going to hate the Yankees, even though the Dodgers are just as bad as the Yankees, and the Mets are worse than all of them, except they're not paying the right people, and it's not working out for the Mets. They're literally paying, I think, more money for people to play for other teams presently than they are for people playing for their own team. It's wild.
It did work out. They went to the NLCS.
They did not. No. When you're spending $300 million a year on payroll, you're not the cute little, but we made it to the NLCS. This was a big
Chris
thing.
Cody.
No, that's not that. When you spend $300 million a year, you need to go further than we made it to the NLCS. Unfortunately, Stugotz, that's what your loser fan base has become accustomed to. Is this was a great season.
Ouch.
We just made it to the NLCS. We're the Mets. Look at us. Go get them, Tiger. But that's not how it works. When you're spending that much money, you need to win. You're not paying for Justin Verlander to pitch for other teams. You're not paying for Max Scherzer to go win a World Series on other teams. Like, that's not what you spend $300 million for. Steve Cohen needs to get it together.
Those 2 weeks, though, what a nice little story it was.
I've watched all the games this series, and I don't know why I thought it was fixed, but we're still getting balls and strikes wrong. Because that was a bummer. You have Juan Soto on deck representing the tying run, and Torres gets called out on a ball.
On a terrible call. You don't get to Soto, which is what you want to see.
I had leaned up from my bed. I was like, okay, here we go. This is the moment. Yankees, Dodgers, Juan Soto representing tying run at the dish. This is great. And then I was like, what the hell was that? That was at his chin.
Yeah.
This series has been an utter disaster for the Yankees. I don't know how you do it, but I also don't know how you keep Aaron Boone after he gets you to a World Series, but he makes the boneheaded Aaron Boone. I tried to warn you guys about Aaron Boone 3 years ago when I was in Detroit, and I said you should have fired him then, and no one listened to me. And now look what's happening,
They're
Yankees
in the
fans.
World Series.
Look, yeah, they're in the World Series, and he cost them. They don't have the starting pitching. You need Garrett Cole to win you the Garrett Cole games, and he's taking Garrett Cole out with 85 pitches,
It's such a
which
great
is
point.
an absurdity. Aaron Judge, you can't expect to carry your team the entire postseason, and he hasn't done anything in the World Series so far. And Giancarlo Stanton, who at a point had like 5 straight hits as home runs, obviously that's not a pace that you're going to keep up with. He doesn't know how to run. I don't understand the fundamentals and the lack of fundamentals on this Yankees team. He's just slow to begin with.
Worst secondary lead
They
I've ever
have
seen.
had base running issues the entire season. But the way that he got thrown out yesterday is like unfathomable. How he slid almost like halfway between third and home for some reason. He's slow as molasses. I don't understand this team.
They're a bunch of keg softball players, and they fool their poor old announcer, John Sterling, who's calling
He's
the last
another
2
one.
games.
He's
Let's
another
play the
one.
sound. Just shut up for a second.
And the breaking ball, there it goes. Deep left center field, and Teoscar is there to make the catch. Oh, did I get fooled on that? What with that swing and the ball majestically going to left field, Susan, I actually thought it was going to be out, and it wasn't close.
He quit on this team earlier this season.
Yes, he did.
And then they just like, yeah, sure. I think he's Mac Brown. Like, what are we doing here? Guy said straight up like retired in the middle of the season, and then everyone's like panicked because like when an like 80 whatever year old he is just retires, like, oh no. Like, this isn't good. They're like, no, he's in perfect health. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we're just moving on. And they're like, well, we're going to go to the World Series. Like, hey, I'm back, Jack. And it's like, no, you're not. Quitter.
We have the state champion defensive coordinator for Mankato West High School with us, Stugotz.
We finally have a coach on the show.
Yes. Do you prefer Tim Walz with us? Do you prefer governor or coach? What should I be calling you during this?
Coach, that's the lead I want. I don't get any help for that. You come with governor or candidate, everybody beats on you, but defensive coordinator, they leave you alone. But good to be with you guys.
Thank you for being on with us. We have politics questions and sports questions, but I want to hear about the legendary story of you lighting up your offensive coordinator because he was running too many trick plays.
Yeah, and this guy was good. Guy's name was Tom Boone, and he was doing things that like irritated me, like passing and getting yardage. And this was, I'm a 6-0 guy, the old school thing or whatever. And this guy continued to score, and I said, look, part of this is pace of the game. We can control the game, keep my defense, on the sideline a little bit here, all that, and not this guy. So that was his philosophy, to just score every time, and kind of fun.
Now, keep in mind, he's joining us on very little sleep from a hotel room in Georgia here. So I don't know how much sports he's paying attention to, but I just want to show you a statue here that was revealed recently and give you a multiple choice question. I want to ask you, is this there's a hint on the front there. Is this Lawrence Fishburne, Antoine Walker, Dwayne Wade, Kelsey Grammer, or Dana White? Who do you have this statue? I think we gave it away with the uniform.
You did, but when I saw the Lawrence Fishburne, I said, man, it is Lawrence. That is a good one. Look, how gracious was D. Wade, though, about this to the sculptor, because this is pretty horrific. I mean, this is a Lucille Ball type, the Lucille Ball statue thing. So it's horrific, but D. Wade, what a class act. He's like, no, this is really nice. I'm grateful. And I don't know how they get that wrong. Wouldn't you think they would show it to everybody first and have people like?
No, he was very involved in it. He was there.
I didn't know that.
You would have no evidence in the statue, but evidently he went 3 or 4 times to be with them, and even measured like the length from the nose to the lip and everything. Yeah,
he's even more gracious, or he just didn't care. I don't know which one.
Didn't care.
So,
yes.
No. He didn't care.
I do have. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, he's got a statue. That's got to be pretty cool, right? And I was in Philly the other day, and honest to God, and I earned it because I ran a 5K to it, no lie, to the Rocky statue, up the stairs with both arms up. It was cooler than I thought it would be. It was really cool. But anyway, sorry to interrupt you, Dan.
That's all right. Thank you. I do appreciate your time. I do have some questions in politics. I'd like to know some of what your inner monologue was during the debate when Vance refused to say that Trump had lost the election.
Yeah, and I'm thinking to myself, we're 85 minutes into this thing, and it kind of seems like that was the lead. Do you believe in democracy? Are you going to honor the vote? Which truly isn't all that political. It's just kind of standard operation. And just on this, my team was very clear to me. They said, don't ask a direct question, because you don't know the answer. It puts you in a bad spot in a debate. And of course, I disregarded what I should have done was listen. But in that case, it worked, because just asking him the question, and I guess I thought he would answer it. And it took a couple of weeks. He did eventually answer it. And he said, no, he didn't lose the election. Donald Trump did not lose that election. So I guess he could have done it that night, but obviously he had a little bit of inner monologue going too about how do I answer this. I was kind of speaking to, 340 million people. I think he might have been speaking to 1. So that's a little bit, a little more challenging.
Do you regret at all not bringing up during that debate that he, your opponent, had once said of Trump that he might be America's Hitler?
Well, I think, like a game does, you go back over it again, how you would do this. And I was very clear. I know my skill set, strengths and weaknesses, and debating, one I kind of worried about. I say this because as a teacher and a coach, I'm trained to answer the questions. If you're good at debate, you don't answer the questions. You just spin somewhere else. And that one I thought about, but it almost gets to the point where some of this stuff becomes unbelievable to people, even though it's true. And it like takes away some of the punch from it. But yeah, it's not that I didn't know that part, and I'd actually thought about it. But, after we saw this last weekend, I think that spoke for itself. I probably didn't have to say it.
Coach, rank the Rockies for me. Rocky 2, Rocky 3, Rocky 4. No one saw Rocky 5. Go ahead.
You're right. I didn't see Rocky 5.
Well, I mean, why would you? I mean,
yeah. Well, Cold War stuff with with the Russians was something, but don't you have to go with the original?
No.
Don't you have to go?
No.
We didn't know what was coming.
No.
I mean, I don't.
Well, Rocky loses there.
Quit badgering the man.
Spoiler alert.
I am. I just want to explain this to him because he's a busy man. Rocky loses in the original Rocky, and I don't like Rocky losing. So therefore, for me, it is Rocky 2, Rocky 4, Rocky 3, Rocky.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, but Apollo dies, and I mean, I don't know. I guess I live in a world where
Revenge is death.
So you're saying that the Rocky losing just killed the whole thing? You wanted him to win that?
Yeah. Yes, every time, of course.
Well, that kills the story. Then there's no. Well, this is why I'm not a screenwriter. I'm not a screenwriter.
I'm not paying good money to go to the theater to see Rocky lose.
I mean, quit interrogating the man, please.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Coach.
Quit badgering him with your obviously correct opinion. Which do you view, if you had to choose one, which do you view as the most dangerous of Trump's lies?
I think the election denial, because I think it undermines, that's the foundation that everything's built on, the idea that democracy matters and that you count. I think everything, if you can get by with that, everything's on the table and you can just go after that. Our elections are secure. They're safe. They always have been. And, I think we grew up with this, and certainly me running office, I expect if I lose to go over and shake the hand of the person who won. And then in politics, work really hard to help them be successful. I didn't want to see George Bush win the election, but when he did, and I was a member of Congress, I wanted to see him be successful. So I tried to work with him the best I could.
I can't believe I'm uttering this sentence. I don't know, because you were playing Madden on Twitch with AOC, how much of what you saw at Madison Square Garden this weekend. Surely you've read about it, though. So what are your thoughts of how racist all of that felt?
Well, that's another thing that Senator Vance once said. He said the thing that voters don't really like about Donald Trump is the racist part. That was him. I did not say that. Look, this is dangerous stuff. It started long ago, but the Springfield stuff of denigrating, Haitian folks who were here legally just trying to get by. This dehumanizing piece of it is this is oldest playbook in the world. And I think for us, the contrast couldn't be greater. We're talking about unity. We're talking about bringing people together. We're talking about a to-do list for the American public rather than kind of an enemies list and putting people on there who we don't like. And very troubling. And I feel, my job as governor is to protect the citizens and do all we can. And I'm hearing from folks, the Hispanic community is nervous and in some cases scared. So I didn't watch it personally. AOC showed me that in real time. I didn't know who this guy was, this comedian or whatever, but, saying that we don't have a sense of humor, using vulnerable people as a punchline for your jokes is really weak. That is not humor. And I have to say this, the guy's delivery was terrible. It was just mean-spirited. That wasn't a joke. That was a dog whistle. Well, not even a dog whistle. It was a scream.
Are you nervous and scared?
Look, I'm committed to winning this thing. I know the American people and the goodness of the American people. Kamala Harris is a leader that has devoted her entire life to serving people. I'm out there listening to folks. I'm in Savannah, Georgia. Last night I was in Ann Arbor, by the way, where I got to give the team in my speech, which was gold. But I'm optimistic. I'm an optimistic person. I believe in this. This American experiment's not going to end here. We're going to continue to go on. But I'm not naive that there are things that we need to be. We've seen poll workers already attacked, and that was written off. And they made a joke about the person who got punched and called the guy who punched him a patriot. Look, I know you've got listeners out there, viewers that are conservative, that are Reagan Republicans, independents. They can't like this. If I were saying that stuff, you should be railing on me.
Well, something that I would rail on the Democratic Party on is I don't think they're much better at the border on immigration than Trump is. Mass deportation is horrifying to me, but Obama was pretty bad on this, and Biden wasn't a lot better. How are you guys better?
Yeah, well, the vice president's been clear, and since they've been in there, we had a chance to get this. And this happened once before, and we had a Republican governor showed courage, and that was George Bush as the governor of Texas. And we had a Republican senator showed courage, and that was Mike DeWine, who's now the governor of Ohio. These are folks that understand that Congress needs to be a piece of this. We had a bill that added 1,500 more agents. It added more equipment, but it also added more money to DOJ to expedite these asylum claims. And then you can secure the border, which we need to do, and also adhere to American values by giving pathways to citizenship. Where Donald Trump's talking about, J.D. Vance in that debate did not answer, will you separate families? And the answer is yes. Yes, they will. So I think, first and foremost, Dan, you need to get the tools necessary, and you do secure the border. But we can't forsake this idea that there are pathways to citizenship that take too long, and you can get people who are here, want to be here, contributing to this country, give them that pathway that's legal. And I think that's what the vice president has said. She said she'd sign the bill immediately. The only reason we don't have it is Donald Trump killed it because he loves the issue. He loves the issue. He doesn't want to fix this. He just wants to admire the issue and tell people he had 4 years. He doesn't want to fix it. Just continue to rail on.
Can you explain to people what mass deportations will do to prices in this country that are already crazy?
Well, look, I represent, and I was a member of Congress in southern Minnesota. We're the largest turkey producers. You can thank us at Thanksgiving, by the way, for your turkey. It's coming from Minnesota. And a lot of folks, like my grandparents, kind of first generation or second generation immigrants, were worked in meatpacking and things. And it's not me saying it, it's the leadership of those companies saying that it would be massive shutdown of it. How are you going to make this happen? How are you going to make the economy work? What's going to happen to the construction industry? And I think most Americans get that. They have compassion. What they want to know is the border's secure. They want to know that folks coming in are coming in through a legal pathway. And then they want to know, what's that path to citizenship look like? And I think folks could recognize and see this. Let's be honest. The jobs you're doing, who do you think's doing all these jobs? Who do you think's making it happen? These are folks that are doing the work. We need to fix that system. But I'll say this once again. It benefits Donald Trump to create chaos. It benefits Donald Trump to say, I'm the only guy who can fix it. And let's be clear. The only guy who didn't fix the border, who made it worse, was Donald Trump by killing that bill. My God, these were conservative senators like James Lankford from Oklahoma. Senator Lankford's super conservative, but he crafted a really good, fair, strong bill. And the mass deportation issue is, I think Americans are starting to understand that, I hope, thinking about it.
Coach, next Tuesday, Americans have a really important decision to make, and that is the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. What do you think they will do with a one-loss Notre Dame team that had a really brutal loss to Northern Illinois earlier this season, but has a great win against Texas A&M and the Naval Academy?
Good question.
I got to be careful on this one. I would just say, when doesn't Notre Dame get in? Even though the years we know they're not going to get in, they're going to get in. And so they may deserve it on this one, but everybody, they got a fan base that's across the country. I don't want to, I'm not a conspiracy guy here. I think we're moving towards a fairer system. My question is, what are you going to do with an undefeated Army or something? You get one of these, or who do we have out there? We got Boise State again, playing good ball.
Well, that means that they would beat Notre Dame because Army's got them at Yankee Stadium later this month, Coach. So that's a fair point.
Will.
That's a fair point.
They will, right? Yeah. Tell me you don't want to see that. We want to see that.
I am a Notre Dame grad, and I do not want to see that.
Are you brave enough to pick the Ohio State Penn State game? Would you dare?
Oh, Jesus.
Would you dare?
Yes, I would. I'm going with Penn State. I really am. And this is hard. I'm a Gopher guy out here. I should have done better research. I didn't know the Notre Dame thing, but in all fairness, I would have answered that question the same way anyway, just so you know. Yeah, no, I think Penn State. I think Penn State's a better team. And I say this because I'm still a peripheral Nebraska fan, and Nebraska should have won that game against Ohio State. They should have won that game. And I think that's a team that Indiana, boat raced the week before, and Ohio State slips by. I don't think that bodes well for them. I think James Franklin's got them ready, and look, they're at College Station where they're going to get all the calls too. So it's going to happen.
As a Gopher and as a Husker, what is your plan to stop conference realignment? Because we both know USC, UCLA, those are not Big Ten teams. They're just not. I
know. I got to go to the Coliseum, and as the timing worked out, the week after the Gophers beat them, which was so. I was in there wearing my gear and everything. Yeah, this is one that I don't know, and it's Charlie Baker, a former colleague. The governor of Massachusetts is there. I love that guy, and Republican governor, trying to deal with everything. I've forever been a guy that these players need to be compensated. I was 100% there, but this is a really strange place of how the nil collectives are working, and this is where I'm old enough that I'm still nostalgic. I'm the Tom Osborne, Barry Switzer, Big Eight. Where the Oranges came down onto the field or whatever, those classic rivalries, I'm really worried about that you don't get these games that were played every year, what that does to, because it feels, I don't know, I'll get your guys' opinion. You're the experts on this. It feels a little bit, now we've got AAA ball heading into the NFL, which college football was a distinctly different game. At least I saw it that way.
Coach, you are a big Twins fan, and I am outraged that Joe Mauer is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Am I right?
Oh no.
Am I right? You agree? I mean, Coach, you agree, right?
No.
He has no business being a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Oh no.
Oh my God, Joe is the best guy. Just imagine he's a Hall of Famer at catch. He's a Hall of Famer at catcher. He's a Hall of Famer at first base. This guy, can they put him in twice?
No.
That's the can he be in there twice?
I'm not saying he shouldn't be in, Coach. I'm just saying first ballot is reserved for special players. You know what I'm talking about? He's not one of them.
Like who?
Like Babe Ruth.
Okay.
Roberto Clemente.
Okay, I'll give you that. He might not be Babe Ruth. So.
Thank you.
All right. Well, again, Stugotz is just badgering the coach.
I've never had so many follow-ups.
Yes, you are.
Stu is pounding me. I got Rocky wrong. I got Joe Mauer wrong.
No, I'm trying to help you. Okay. Next time someone asks
Fran
you.
Tarkington? What about Fran Tarkington? You got any thoughts?
Not a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Man. See, I knew it.
No. I mean, did he win one? Does he have a ring?
So you throw Namath in with that too. Oh, the ring.
No, Namath's overrated.
I'm
a Jets fan. He should not be in the Hall of Fame. He's terrible.
Are you still a Jets fan this week?
Yes, I am.
All right. Let's just show him a picture of Eric Adams here and get Coach's reaction to just the B-roll here of Eric Adams wearing a Yankee cap that is also a Mets cap. Tell me your honest opinions of what is happening there, and don't go political on me.
God, I don't know. I haven't seen that before. I think you just got to make a choice. This is kind of hard. I watch governors who have two teams in their state, and they just make the choice on them. You take a little bit of political heat, but these politicians go to like these state fairs, and then they don't want to say which one's the best. It's obviously Minnesota State Fair, and even though you lose votes in Iowa and Texas for saying that, you just say it. So I think Eric should just pick, and he's certainly not going to pick the Mets, so he should just wear the Yankees.
What do you?
It seems to me to be.
Yeah, no, it's a strong
great,
opinion,
yes.
and I think
Very good.
most of us would land there. What do you say to criticism that your campaign has been too much about don't vote for that, rather than making sure that everybody sees a progressive path for the country through you and your party?
Yeah. Well, if folks say that, then we hear them. But I will tell you this, we've been out there. I think that is a fair thing to say. I think you have to underline, what the other choices are. And in the case of Donald Trump, he's told us who he is, believe him on that. But we've given a new way forward. We've laid out extensive plans. I rolled out a rural agenda that the vice president and our team put together that I'm really proud of. These are things that people care about. If you don't live in a rural area, this issue of your rural hospitals and ambulance deserts and childcare, those things come up. People don't talk about these other things that, get in the news. They talk about how am I going to find childcare and what happens when I dial 911. And we've laid out plans on those. I think you do have a responsibility, and we're doing it to give people a reason to vote for it. And this one is turn the page, new way forward, end the chaos, middle-class tax cut, child care tax credit, making housing more affordable, bringing down prices. Those are things we're talking about. And I would challenge anybody in the media to show me what is Donald Trump's plan other than just a list of grievances. So this is a to-do list versus a grievance list, and I think that's a big difference.
I saw a report here, U.S. intelligence offices saying basically that Russians targeted you with some unfounded claims, and also all over the place there's a bunch of unfounded including, and this one seems like it would hurt, stolen valor. Which of these has been most hurtful to see this era of misinformation cut you?
Well, look, if you're in this, you know what you're going to get. I also said don't forget, I supervised the high school lunchroom. I pretty much heard everything leveled at me. Russian intelligence can't beat a ninth grader who's really angry with you, I don't think. But I will just be honest with you. The integrity around this, I served 24 years honorably in service and have a spotless record on that, was a senior enlisted soldier in my battalion. And to see folks use this to kind of undermine that, I don't go out and stick it in people's faces. There's lots of ways to serve this country, but 24 years is a long time, and to have a record. And, the issue they're talking about, I'm talking about children being killed in our schools with weapons of war. And, one incident, use the wrong word. I certainly am proud of what I've done. I know what I've done, but I think undermining that, and then this, the Russian stuff or whatever, of course, they try and get as gross as possible. You just take it what it is. The American people know who you are. They know who I am. And I think they know I'm not a serial liar like we've seen on the other side. So that makes a difference.
You're a hunter, and Kamala, and you had and have guns, but you've had your opinion shaped or changed by what happened or what your daughter came to you with after the Parkland shootings very near Stugotz's home.
Yeah, well, I think it's an evolution. I think you'd want your elected officials to do this. I grew up in a time, Dan, where we took our guns to school. This isn't something, it's a different time, simpler. And after football practice, we'd go hunt because we're a town of 400. We're just out doing that. The world has changed. And I think for me, setting with the Sandy Hook parents, and my son would have been about the same age as theirs. Those kids would have graduated last year. They'd be 19. And there were all those little bodies piled up and shot in there with their teachers in their classroom with one of these weapons of war. Pretty hard to set in there when those parents are saying, can't you take a vote on background checks? Can't you take a vote on red flag laws? Can't you take a vote on these assault weapons? And the answer is yes. And having my daughter, and I've mentioned, I got a son who's in high school and they practice these drills. So look, you can protect the Second Amendment. Nothing we're proposing does anything on that. But our first responsibility is to those kids in the classroom. And I think the vice president's been very clear about that. And I think, look, this thing polls at like 80% the American public. This doesn't happen in other parts of the world the way it happens here. America can do something about this, and you can still have your firearms, your legal firearms, but we can make a big difference.
Trump has tried to distance himself from Project 2025. I'm guessing our listeners don't want to read a 900-page policy document, but its authors have tried to ban books about slavery. They want to privatize the weather forecasts, the weather.
Yeah.
They want to ban porn. What should scare the average young male apathetic voter about what it is that Trump really plans to do in office?
Yeah, all these things. You may think right now that they're not coming after you when it's, restricting women's rights to, to reproductive care, but you're right on this. And what you view in your content as an adult, what you're able to read or whatever, these are folks that have a very specific idea that they think government should make all these decisions. Banning the Department of Education, rewriting this. Why would we ban books on slavery? It happened. We're a big enough country, we can tell the story. You're never going to get beyond these things unless you understand where they were at. But these are folks that have a very specific agenda. They believe that they should weaponize the Department of Justice. I mean, imagine they're saying enemies from within. I know I'm at the top of that list, but a lot of your viewers need to recognize they'll be on that list too. If they happen to believe that we should have weather forecasting, if you live in Miami, it might be a nice idea to know which, a hurricane's coming because lives are at risk. These folks, and somebody asked, why do they want to privatize this or whatever? Because they want to deny climate change, because they want to deny we're doing, we need to do something. So I think there's a whole bunch of things in there and young viewers should, this is about freedom. This is a really, the juxtaposition between Donald Trump trying to talk about freedom when all they're trying to do is weaponize the federal government against your basic freedoms is really something to behold. And I think, when Vice President Harris talked about freedom, she means you make decisions about your health care, your family, the choices, what you read, what movies you watch. So I think it's a pretty clear choice, but all that thing, yeah, they want to distance themselves because it's horrific, because nobody's asking for this agenda. Can you guys picture, they're telling us that the biggest issue, a bunch of guys sitting around in a bar in Wisconsin is, what we should do? We should ban Orwell's books. We should ban 1984. No one's saying that. They're like, how come I'm not getting paid more? Where are the manufacturing jobs? How do I buy a house? And I don't want my kids to be shot. And I think listening to these guys talk about these things, nobody's asking for this crazy agenda.
Coach, thank you for the time. I think you might have swayed down the middle
He's
Chris here. I think he's
the
voting.
porn thing.
I'm pro porn.
Yeah,
Okay,
pro porn.
excellent
Yeah.
work by you guys.
Hey, you do what you do. You be you. You be you is my
Unbelievable.
thought.
Coach, thank you for being on with us. I am mortified by my colleagues. Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys. It was a pleasure.